Welcome to this explainer. Today we're going to totally peel back the layers on the surprising, kind of counterintuitive, and frankly completely hidden financial reality of the gym industry. We're looking way past the dumbbells and the treadmills here to figure out how this incredibly common business actually survives and, why it sometimes completely fails.
So, let's dive right in. Picture a scene we've literally all witnessed. It's a weekday evening, the gym is packed, every single machine is taken, the weight room is incredibly loud, and there's a massive line at the front desk. You see that and you naturally think, man, this place must be printing money, right? More people equals more memberships, which means way more cash. It just looks like the easiest, most profitable business in the world. But actually, that 1 hour of the day is completely lying to you.
Here is the really crucial point. You aren't actually looking at a straightforward fitness business at all. The second you reframe your thinking on this, everything about how a gym makes and silently loses money starts to make total sense. What you're actually looking at is a subscription business that just happens to have dumbbells sitting in it. This one distinction dictates literally every financial decision an owner makes, and that starts with the absolutely staggering price tag required just to unlock the front doors.
Because the really expensive part isn't the weights, not even close. It's the massive hidden cost of turning a big, empty retail box into a space that can legally and safely hold a bunch of sweating humans. Before you even open, commercial landlords are going to demand 3 to 6 months of rent right up front. Then, you've got that specialized rubber impact flooring to absorb dropped barbells. That's a quick 10 to 40 grand right there. Add in moisture-resistant plumbing for the locker rooms, another 10 to 50 grand. And, oh, those giant floor-to-ceiling mirrors everyone loves? Just installing those can run up to $12,000 by itself.
But what really illustrates the invisible traps of this industry is something you can't even see: the air. A standard retail space just cannot handle a room packed with people generating all that heat and moisture. Building codes strictly require roughly 20 cubic feet of fresh air per minute for every single person exercising. To put that in perspective, just providing the legally required fresh air for 100 people means you're pumping in over 2,000 cubic feet of air every minute. That means you're hit with an immediate $10,000 to $50,000 industrial HVAC upgrade before you've sold a single membership.
So you add up the renovations, the equipment, those massive rent deposits, the licenses, and the cash reserve you absolutely need just to survive those slow early months. And suddenly, unlocking the front door of just a modest, mid-sized commercial gym comes with a staggering price tag of $300,000 to well over $1 million.
Now let's talk about the members, because this is where that subscription model really kicks into high gear. Every new sign-up is essentially a coin flip between two very different futures. On one hand, you've got the daily regular. They show up 3 times a week, they use all your hot water, they wear out the treadmill belts, they take up space, and they cost you real, actual money. On the other hand, you have the January resolutioner. They show up maybe twice, quit in February, but keep paying anyway. So which one do you think is more valuable to the business?
Well, the answer is pretty clear in the industry data. Consistently, roughly 2/3 of gym members rarely or almost never actually use the facility they're paying for. Think about that for a second. It means the vast majority of the revenue for a typical budget or mid-tier gym is coming from people whose cost of service is effectively zero. Every single dollar of their monthly payment flows straight to the bottom line simply because they aren't there exercising.
And look, this isn't some happy accident. It's a calculated statistical bet that the whole business model literally relies on. For example, if even 10% of a 7,000-member budget gym decided to show up at the exact same time, you'd have 700 people trying to squeeze into a room built for maybe 250. They would violate the building's fire code in minutes. Gyms physically cannot hold their entire paying customer base. And frankly, they don't want to.
Owners completely depend on this seasonal paradox. Roughly 12% of all annual gym signups happen in January alone. It is a massive, crucial injection of upfront cash. But up to 80% of those resolutioners will stop attending before summer even arrives. Experienced owners plan their entire yearly cash flow around this very predictable drop-off. They use that January windfall to build a reserve to survive the super quiet summer months, knowing full well those absentee members will just keep paying.
But how on earth do they keep people paying if they aren't going? Well, the physical space itself is actually weaponized for this. Clean, simple layouts are intentionally designed to reduce beginner intimidation. Those mirrors, sure, they help you track progress, but having so many of them is a calculated move to subtly increase self-consciousness.
They even use directional lighting to highlight muscle definition on the workout floor, but shift to soft, calming lighting in recovery areas. Even the fast-paced music tempo is scientifically chosen to make your workout feel easier. None of this is just accidental decoration.
It all starts with that super optimistic day one sign-up, but eventually that turns into pure inertia. And when you finally decide to break that emotional attachment and cancel, bam, you hit a deliberate wall of friction. Contracts often force you to cancel in writing, in person, or even via certified mail. And even if you jump through those hoops, they frequently require a 30 to 60-day advanced billing notice. That is designed specifically to squeeze out at least one more month of dues before you go.
Regulators are actually starting to fight this friction. The Federal Trade Commission tried to introduce a national rule to make canceling as easy as signing up, but a federal appeals court struck that down in the summer of 2025. Cities, though, are taking matters into their own hands. For instance, New York City launched a strict click-to-cancel mandate in October 2026. They're hitting gyms with a $500 penalty per violation if they make canceling deliberately difficult for folks.
Now, beyond regulations, gyms also face massive, hidden, ongoing risks that could literally destroy a business overnight. Take the music. Playing background music in a commercial space isn't like playing your personal Spotify playlist in your living room. You actually need commercial public performance licenses. If an owner just hooks up a personal streaming account, field investigators can catch them, and under federal copyright law, they face a staggering potential fine of up to $150,000 per song for intentional infringement. No joke.
So to do it legally, they pay what I call these quiet margin eaters. Music licenses alone eat up thousands a year. Then you have to factor in the heavy daily wear and tear, which requires thousands a month in equipment repairs. Plus, you've got massive utility bills just to keep the heavy ventilation and the hot water running. And if the owner leased their equipment to save cash up front, well, they're stuck paying around 8% in interest. Month after month, these costs silently stack up behind the scenes.
So the mechanical engine of a gym really just boils down to this incredibly simple break-even math. Let's say a gym has fixed monthly operating costs of $30,000, and they charge $89 a month for a membership. They need about 337 paying members just to hit zero, just to break even. It sounds easy enough, but it can easily take 12 to 18 months of slowly accumulating members to reach that point, burning through precious working capital the entire time before the facility finally turns a profit.
And if that underlying financial structure breaks, even the absolute industry giants fall. Look at Bally Total Fitness or 24-Hour Fitness. These were huge chains with thousands of members and completely full parking lots. Yet Bally filed her bankruptcy twice in a single year. They didn't collapse because people stopped working out. Actually, scratch that. They were packed. They collapsed structurally because their aggressive debt and fixed costs completely overwhelmed their reliable membership revenue. And maintaining that reliable revenue is an absolute nightmare because of churn. Average annual member churn sits around 30 to 40%, meaning if a gym has 500 members, they might lose 5% of them every single month. They literally have to acquire hundreds of new members over the course of a year just to stay exactly where they started. It's basically the business equivalent of constantly running in place on your own treadmills.
So to break out of this exhausting cycle, gyms rely on a second major revenue stream, personal training. But one-on-one training has a built-in ceiling, right? A trainer can only work so many hours, usually maxing out around $80 an hour. To shatter this ceiling, smart gyms pivot to small group or semi-private training. One coach training 4 people at $40 each brings in $160 for that exact same hour. It extracts far more profit per hour and creates a highly lucrative margin.
When you put all this together, the volatility of this business is just wild. In an optimistic scenario with low churn and no new competitors, an owner can take home a fantastic $70,000 to $180,000 a year. But a few very normal setbacks, say a new budget chain opening just 2 miles down the road, or some slightly higher than expected repair bills, that can quietly swing that exact same gym from a highly profitable year into an outright loss. And the craziest part, it happens without a single visible warning sign to the people happily working out inside.
As we close out this explainer, I want to leave you with this somewhat provocative thought, directly from the data. The success of a gym was never really about how many people you can get to work out. It's about how well you can survive on the people who stop showing up. Knowing that, would you ever want to run a business where your absolute survival depends on your